Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. We got Joe Rogan, Duncan Trussell, and Duncan and Joe are talking about something very interesting. As you guys know, I've been reading this book, 1984, and what they were talking about reminded me of something from the book. Duncan starts talking about the amnesia that people go through in the world, in society. We forget how things work when it comes to the establishment and what's going to happen to us if we do certain things. And it just reminded me of the Ministry of Truth and Winston and his job of editing certain things to make the party seem correct at all times. So I'm going to read a little bit from there, but first I'm going to show you the Joe Rogan clip. Let's get into this, okay? So don't forget about IamCoachColin.com. Of course, we got Sold Not For Sale. We have the Great Resist, and we have what I'm wearing right now, Public Enemy #1. Discount code IamCoachColin, all capital letters, all one word, 1 L in the name Colin. Let's get to this clip.
Anymore. The kid's steering wheel, you put the kid's steering wheel, the kid thinks he's driving the car.
Right.
Our youngest, we give him the, when we were doing screens, which we stopped, we give him the controller.
Yeah.
When the oldest is playing, he thinks he's playing too.
Yeah.
So you do that. Use the same trick. You're like, here, yeah, you're playing the game for sure. No, truly, it's a democracy. We're all, even though over time, nothing really seems to change.
Well, isn't that the baby steps of that, like, election fraud that you experience today? That's the baby steps of that. And if they can get away with a certain amount of election fraud, that can tip elections and make it so it's impossible to talk about it. So if you even bring up the possibility of election fraud, you're a fucking psycho.
Yeah.
And you're a racist and xenophobic and you're transphobic and homophobic and you shouldn't even be a part of America. And we should start locking those people up. And then they do start locking those people up. And they threaten to lock those people up. And they go after those people. I mean, you think about it, the January 6th protests was think that people didn't believe the results of the election.
You know, man, let me...
Right? Think about it that way.
Dude, the reason, like, the punishment for these people, to me, is too severe. But as a long-time hippie, we are attuned to the heat. And everybody knows, don't fuck around in D.C. What are you fucking doing? Are you crazy? You don't fuck around in D.C., man. That's like not a place to fuck around. Did you ever remember when they were like beating people for dancing at one of the monuments? Like people would dance at the monuments and you can't dance at the monuments. So to protest, they would go and dance and they would just get thrown on the ground and beaten.
Really?
Yes. There's videos of this. I bet Jamie could find it.
Wow. And which monuments?
I don't know.
Like Lincoln Monuments?
I wish I knew what the monuments were.
You can't dance in front of Lincoln?
You can't dance at the fucking monuments. And so knowing that cameras everywhere, definitely like reading whatever text you're sending, it's the most secure, has to be the most secure place.
Right.
It's the fucking throbbing heart of the wasp's nest.
Right.
You're going to go there and fuck around and think you're going to be okay? Like if you not... Like, where do you think you are? You're going to put your feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk and fart in her chair?
But let's not even talk about those folks. There's people that were just at the protest that are getting arrested.
Dude, again, I think I'm coming off as a little too cynical right
No,
now.
I don't think you are.
But I feel like there seems to be some level of amnesia regarding the way things work here with people, and naive kind of amnesia about, like, inevitably the people in the Darth Vader outfits come out. Like when you can like fuck with the machine up till a certain point. You fuck with the machine too much, all of a sudden there's all these people in Darth Vader outfits beating you with batons, spraying you with water hoses until things get back to normal. I mean, and so when people are shocked by this or that, generally shocked by some display of violence or tyranny or in like any of that stuff, it's always weird to me because it's like, isn't this how it is here? Like, when was it not like this? Like, what's that? Remember when the protester got shot at the university? They were just shooting protesters in the 60s?
Yeah.
Like, so
Kent State.
Kent State. So it's like
the National Guard.
This notion that it's not like that. And then like poking a stick at the thing directly and not in some asymmetrical way, but really like going in there and seeing, let's see if this time if we poke the tiger, what will happen? And the tiger inevitably bites. And usually the tiger now is a little scarier because it seems to wait a little bit before it bites you. Like, it doesn't just bite you right away. It lets you poke it and poke it and poke it. And then it's gathering information about you, finding everything about what you've done, where you've been, who your friends are. And then it fucking bites. And when it bites, it doesn't let go. And you're fucked. You are so fucked. So, again,
So all these January 6th guys, they have like a network of people, right? And all these people that are on these QAnon forums and all these people that are like Trump supporters that are a part of that whole organization thing, how many of them are feds?
Dude.
A lot.
No telling.
Yeah.
No telling. It's just, it's like, wow, man.
That's what happens with any group. If you have a group and anyone can join the group, the feds are like, great, let's join the group.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they? It's kind of their obligation. Because what if you do turn out to be a bunch of fucking loons that are trying to blow up the White House?
Exactly.
They have to.
No choice.
Like when people say, were there FBI agents at the Capitol? Well, I fucking hope so.
Of course there were.
You don't want to say it that way. But also, were they encouraging people to go inside? That's where it gets weird. That's where it gets weird. Because if they were just there to make sure that, like, look, if someone says, hey, I got a dirty bomb, like, if you can find out, like, Roscoe's got a dirty bomb, he's about to fucking break into Nancy Pelosi's office and blow it up, let's go watch.
Yeah.
Like, you would need to know, right?
Yeah.
If you were protecting and serving. But what if you're, like, telling people to go in because you want to make arrests? Or what if the thing was to make it look like something it wasn't, to encourage it to happen? Because you know that there's already going to be a bunch of people protesting. What if you say, look, the way to do it is let these motherfuckers in and then arrest them all and then call it something that it's not? Don't call it a guided tour. Call it an insurrection. Cut out. Don't allow anybody to see any of the footage of the people just leading these folks around, pointing out what things are, letting them walk into the fucking Senate floor. Yeah. Don't point that out. No, get rid of that footage and just have the guys banging on the windows and shit.
Sure, dude. I mean,
that's kind of what happened.
I think that if you were not at least contemplating that the people running the most powerful military on planet Earth, who have access to probably an AI that would blow our minds, but also who have gone to military academies where all they've done is study strategy. That's it. You're talking about people who their whole lives, the way we've been working on comedy, they study history, they look at what worked, what didn't work, goals, agendas, and then to imagine that these people are functioning on just some baseline level when it comes to achieving this goal or that goal, I think it's very naive and very silly and underestimating them in a way that is not going to work for you if you're trying to, like, achieve some kind of actual political change. You know, what do they say? To beat my enemy, I must become like my enemy. And that means, dude, you've got to, like...
You've got to become a communist.
This is why I came on today, Joe.
Dude, I have to pee. Let's hold this thought. We'll be right back.
Okay.
And we're back. The saunas and the cold plunge back to back and all the water you drink, like, I can't hold my...
Dude, it's so nice, though, man.
Isn't it great?
It's so great. It's so fucking great.
I'm so glad you guys are doing it.
It's crazy. You got us all, like, it's so funny watching us all work out. It's really cool. You're like forming a militia.
Well, everybody feels better.
Yeah.
Everybody. Hassan was saying, like, dude, I'm so much stronger. I feel so much better.
Yeah. No, it's incredible, man. The impact is tremendous.
When you were talking today about, like, you couldn't do chin-ups before, now how many did you do today?
Well, only 5 each set, but, you know, this is going from 0 to 5. And I told you, I dreamed, like, last week, I dreamed about doing pull-ups. And, like, it was this is how far away I've been from doing pull-ups that I'm dreaming it. And I wake up, I'm like, just a dream. So it's really wild to, like, so I was like, fuck, I can do pull-ups now? This is crazy. But I lost a lot of weight. When I was super fat, that was a big part of it, man. When you're overweight, like, pull-ups obviously are going to be more difficult.
When I have more time, I do it different. And I was doing it different than I'm doing it now when I do the pull-up.
I just wanted to play that part because that's an achievement. I don't know if you guys noticed because Duncan always has these huge suits on, but he looks amazing right now. He's lost a ton of weight, and I guess it's because of these workouts they're doing. They get into these conversation snowballs, like I said in the last episode we did. They just kind of talk and talk and talk and talk, and it just goes into different places. But I always love to see somebody do better. 5 pull-ups is huge. I know for some people it's like nothing, but it really is something. But I wanted to talk about the amnesia part that Duncan was talking about, right? But I forgot how much Joe said in this clip, and that was quite a bit. You know, I always say he doesn't have to go into these rants about these things. He could stay away from this stuff. He doesn't have to go into this stuff. He could just have a good time with his friend. So really, I do have to salute him for when he decides to talk about things like this, because not many people are, and you know, he's on the biggest platform in the world, so salute to him. But when it comes to the amnesia that Duncan's talking about, first of all, when he talked about agents being needed, that is kind of true, right? But, you know, it can get into a bad place. But if there were people who had disingenuous intentions being there, you do need someone to watch them. But there's a whole, I've done so many videos on that situation. If you go and find them, I've done full breakdowns of that stuff. There's so much. I have Stephen A. Son's perspective, Pelosi, like everybody's, just everybody. I've done so many breakdowns of this. Maybe I'll link it somewhere if I can find it, but go and check it out. It's there in the playlist. But this reminded me when he's talking about it reminded me of the ministry of truth as I read this book, as I get this book read to me by my wife. But it reminded me of that because we kind of go through the same thing currently. We go through this amnesia by media, you know, because he's right about there being some kind of amnesia, but it's not an amnesia. It doesn't just happen to us, you know, it's done to us. And I feel like it's done by the media. You know, they take what's happened. Think of any protest. Forget about the protest they're talking. Take any protest. What usually happens? Well, the authorities usually respond in kind, you know, and I don't mean like kindly. I mean, they come and they disperse it and they mobilize people and they move people and they do what they have to do, from sprays to they do whatever they have to do. And it's always positioned like what we did in terms of the establishment. What we did was proper. What they did was improper. See, in the Ministry of Truth in 1984, Winston, if you don't know the book, Winston has this job of altering the past. He's supposed to go back and alter things. So whatever the party says, he's supposed to go back and make sure everything they've said in the past matches up with today, so they're never seen as wrong. Right? And I feel like that happens to us today, but it happens in real time. Now, again, going back to what I just said, you know, what we did was proper, what they did was improper. They always position it like that. Any protest, doesn't matter what side you're on, left, right, you're for these rights, you're against these rights, it doesn't matter. As soon as they want to break it up, what they did was proper, what you did was improper. Those people who assembled are X, Y, Z. They were in the wrong. They shouldn't have been there. They were also associated with this bad thing and that bad thing. And before you know it, like, it doesn't have to go, you don't have to go into the past. It's in real time. They adjust what actually happened right before our eyes. And we do kind of get this amnesia, but it's not the kind of amnesia that Duncan's talking about. Like, we forget how things worked. It's different. So what else do I have written down here? They go back and they change events, but they don't go back and change events. They adjust them in real time and move on quickly. So after they're done making any protester seem like the bad guy, they kind of just move along with the news cycle. They push it aside. That's why I say it's by media, because then we forget. We do forget what happened. You know, like when he brought up the dancing, like, I'm sure some of you don't even remember that, but it was at a Jefferson monument. People were silently dancing, and that was their form of protest, and they were dispersed immediately, exactly the way Duncan said. It was a little vicious the way they did it. Here's the thing, though, with this whole amnesia thing, as Duncan's talking about it. You know, people remember what the U.S. was built on. They remember the promise. They remember the rights that people have. People act on that. So in reality, when you see how people act, when they assemble and they protest, who really has the amnesia? Because when they come and disperse you and move you and do whatever they have to do and brand you as misogynistic or this or that, you know, white nationalist, whatever, you know, who's really forgetting how things work? You know, Duncan's talking like we all have forgotten how things worked. If you assemble, you will be dealt with harshly. Well, that's not really how things work. That's not really how things are supposed to work. What he brought up was a silent protest. People just dancing. This is somebody just dancing. That's it. They were just dancing. And they were dealt with very harshly. That's actually not the way things work. You know? So who really has the amnesia? That person assembled peacefully. That's what you're supposed to do. You know? So who actually has the amnesia? Who is it really that forgot the way things worked? And now, when we talk about Duncan, right? He's a 49-year-old man, right? And he already has amnesia. So think about a 30-year-old today or a 20-year-old. They may not have any concept of how things should work. So they may get to a point where they don't even see any problem with how things are working today, how protesters are dealt with, how people who oppose whoever's in power are dealt with. They may not see any problem with that because they don't even remember. You know? There is an amnesia, but it's not to the point that Duncan's talking about, because Duncan's already experiencing the amnesia. He's forgotten the way it's actually supposed to work, the way people are actually supposed to have rights. They're supposed to be able to assemble. It's supposed to be okay. You're not supposed to get dealt with the way those people at the Jefferson Monument got dealt with. Those people in the 60s that he was speaking about, the way they got dealt with. That's not the way things are supposed to go. But the way media keeps pushing, the way things keep getting contorted in real time, and the news cycle just keeps on pushing forward every week. Whatever happens on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, push all that aside, new news cycle. After that's done, new one. After that's done, new one. After that's done, new one. And it just keeps going and going. And we forget. We forget. Because how often do people on mainstream media talk about the way things are supposed to work in America? How often does that really happen? When do you see Rachel Maddow kind of go through the Constitution and say, remember your constitutional rights? How often does that really happen? You ever seen Anderson Cooper do that? Did Don Lemon do that in his day? Tucker Carlson barely brings it up. Nobody really brings it up. I should say Tucker, when he was on mainstream media, but nobody was really bringing that up day after day for you to remember, so the amnesia that we experience is kind of done to us by the media very slowly. Now, I do bring up the book. I just wanted to read this part because it did remind me of this. The process of continuous alteration was applied not only to newspapers, but to books, periodicals, pamphlets, posters, leaflets, films, soundtracks, cartoons, photographs, to every kind of literature or documentation which might conceivably hold any political or ideological significance. Day by day and almost minute by minute, the past was brought up to date. In this way, every prediction made by the party could be shown by documentary evidence to have been correct. Nor was any item of news or any expression of opinion which conflicted with the needs of the moment ever allowed to remain on record. All history, I'll just stop there. I don't want to go too much, but yeah, it's kind of like that. Things are being altered minute by minute, but now it's in real time. In the book, a gentleman had to go back years back and rectify things, correct things. But now it just happens minute by minute. As soon as the thing happens, you see the thing, and then all of a sudden they start telling you what you're seeing. And even if you are seeing people silently dancing, for example, all of a sudden media tells you, well, what you're actually seeing is people who are associated with far-right extremists, misogynistic tendencies. One of them assaulted somebody. They're actually very violent. And all of a sudden, what you're seeing and what you're hearing tend to mash together. And maybe not you, but when they do it to everybody all at once, the story, the narrative, it all changes. And it's all corrected. Even when you just think back to what people are saying today and what they were saying years ago. Thank God we have guys like Joe Rogan and Jimmy Dore and even Bill Maher, because they talk about how the left used to be and how wild it is that they've changed. Now they're the party of war. Now they're the party that wants censorship. And they can remember a time where it wasn't like that. And they didn't want censorship. And they didn't want war. They can see things switching. They can understand how odd all of this looks. If they didn't exist, most of us wouldn't remember. And we would think everything we're seeing is normal. We would be on the sides that we're on, and we just think everything's going as it should. I don't know. Just makes me think, this whole amnesia thing that Duncan brought up. There is a bit of amnesia, But as he's talking, he doesn't realize that he's actually victim to it. He thinks this is how it works. It's a tiger and you're poking the tiger. It used to be the other way around. It's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, share. It helps so much. You have no idea. And other than that, I'm out.